Blackrock just saw the largest daily outflow in history, and Bitcoin is plunging below $90,000 again. Is this the official end of the Bitcoin bull run? Well, Michael Saylor was just on the news again and had a lot of interesting things to say about BlackRock and the institution's involvement in the space. Let's check out the clip.
Well, folks, we know Bitcoin has faced tough sledding in the past, but certainly in recent months. In fact, that chart there is saying that this is the first time since 2023 that's negative on the year, and that's worrisome for holders who may not have been in it long enough to know that there are usually some booms and busts with this thing. Now, it does have the meme writers working overtime. I thought this was a fun one, taking shots at the crypto bros. Of course, nobody takes more shots than Michael Saylor, who posted just a few hours ago on X, quote, believe. So let's bring him in now. Strategy founder, executive chairman, Michael Saylor. Michael, some would say that believe is like hope. It's not a strategy. So what's changed? Has anything changed with the value proposition?
You know, Bitcoin's been around for 15 years. It's had 15 major drawdowns. It's always come back to a new all-time high. If you zoom out, this is just par for the course. This is normal in the life cycle of an emergent transformational asset class, and it's a healthy thing. It clears out the tourists, the leverage, and the weak holders, and sets the basis for the next rally upward.
A lot of folks are saying when Wall Street was kicking the tires that when Wall Street got involved, we'd have less volatility. And is that, you know, do you feel it's the Wall Street connection, has that helped or hurt?
You know, I think we are getting less volatility. When I got into this space in 2020, Bitcoin was an 80 vol asset, growing about 80% a year. And it's ground down to 70, 70, 60, 60, and now it's 50 vol asset, growing about 50% a year. I think every few years you're going to get another 5 points of vol taken off it as it matures, and it's kind of grinding toward being about 1.5 times as volatile as the S&P index and 1.5 times better performing.
Could it be, to a degree, a victim of its own success in the sense that it feels like other cryptos this year and other, you know, other stories in this area have gotten a lot of attention? Also, of course, gold. Does gold take away some potential Bitcoin buyers? Well,
you know, there's a lot of exciting things going on in the economy. There's digital intelligence and AI. There's digital assets, digital currency, digital finance, and you know, and you can't dismiss any of them. But Bitcoin still remains the ultimate digital opportunity for a sound money enthusiast. So if you simply want to save your money forever and avoid counterparty risk, Bitcoin is stronger than ever. These other opportunities are going to continue to be shiny things, and you can leave them to the tech investors that are experts in those areas.
Well, there you hear it. Saylor doesn't seem concerned at all. And I know that's a stark contrast to most of the people on Twitter right now. Everyone is freaking out. I'm actually going to pivot here a little bit before I get into the rest of the show, because we were having these conversations last night, me, Nico, Sophie, and actually this morning with Luke. And one thing seems very clear. No one has any clue on what's going on. And my case was there's probably about 4 people that really do know what's going on. Saylor, I think, being one of them. Larry Fink being the other one. Probably Donald Trump, and then maybe Jamie Dimon. Or rather, David Sachs, the whole crypto czar crew. They probably know what's going on right now. And our takeaway is there seems to be some shenanigans going on. Everyone is looking at the price. Everyone can't make sense of, if there is so much institutional demand, institutional accumulation, what is going on with the price. And I mean, I wish Nico was on today. He's not on today, but Sophie maybe can retell the story. But apparently he went on like a 6-hour rabbit hole, autistic rabbit hole of all the Bitcoin influencers. And he called me at like 11 o'clock last night. And he's like, dude, I don't think I've ever been more confused about what's going on with the price. I don't understand what's going on. Usually we know what's going to happen. You know, if we hit a top, it's like, okay, we're going into the bear market, 2 years, we'll be right back. Now we haven't hit any kind of blow off top. We haven't hit any euphoria phases. But from Saylor's take here, it's kind of what we've all been saying. This is par for the course. Bitcoin bull runs do have historically 25 to 30% clawbacks, and then it still runs. And I know there's a lot of new kind of memes revolving around the elongated cycle. The 4-year cycle was over. Everyone is kind of looking at the price action of 2025, and they can't make sense of it. As we've been saying for a while, every single person has been wrong. It really doesn't make too much sense when you're seeing the biggest institutions get into Bitcoin. What is going on with accumulations? You know, who is actually in control of the price? Who's actually in control over the Bitcoin momentum? And I made one simple case. It's like, if you had to wait 16 years to get into Bitcoin, and now you can finally get into Bitcoin, what would you want to do? You would want to acquire Bitcoin on the low. And as we see sentiment revolve around Bitcoin at the lowest it's ever been, it's really the meme playing out. You know, Bitcoin goes at all-time high and it crashes to 90K and everyone loses their mind. I'm kind of with Sailor on this one. The markets seem to be healthier than ever. Yes, the price action has been stagnant. Yeah, we'll go to Selfie's face. In the sense that the fundamentals haven't changed. If anything, the fundamentals have gotten stronger. But the price has literally done nothing all year, and it's really making people lose their minds. One of the people that I've been kind of watching lately is British Hotto, and he's like, we're going to 87K. We got to clear out all the tourists, all the leverage, and then we can finally make another leg up. So on that note, before I get into the Blackrock stuff and actually some interesting kind of accumulation from other institutions, I'm going to pass it off to Sophie because Sophie's been crashing out on me all morning about the Bitcoin price. So I'm going to get a vibe check here. So how are you doing?
I'm shocked Nico has let me on the show today because I really am like one, more dip away from just fully crashing out. I love Sailor's optimism and I want to believe that everything is okay. But when I start to look at the other sectors, like this morning I was watching a podcast with Luke Groman and Preston Pish. And one of the things that he mentioned, I mean, aside from all of the technical stuff that I don't really understand, is that this same thing seems to be happening in real estate. Real estate has this expectation that everything was going to go super, super bullish for them, after the rate cuts, whatever. And actually, the very opposite happened. And I feel like the same thing is happening in Bitcoin, right? If we just focus on the cycles, we are so lost right now. And if we focus on everything that we thought had affected Bitcoin in the past, we would think that the price should be like at astronomical levels. But the reality is that it's not. And that signals to me that there are things happening at the foundational level of the economy that are just not right now. It's signaling to me that we are in for a world of pain that we probably don't want to accept because we're supposed to be thinking, hey, we're going to print money. We're making rate cuts. The economy's supposed to be awesome right now. What are you talking about? What's going on? But tech is crashing. And when tech crashes, apparently Bitcoin, they correlate the two because dumb people in who are trading I almost said the R word, because dumb people who are trading in the stock market correlate the two. They think, oh, Bitcoin, it's tech. It's not the same thing, but they somehow correlate the two. And everything is pretty much going down the drains. I'm trying really hard not to curse.
Yeah, no, that is kind of the thing. Actually, my buddy who's in the chat, who look, I think at this point I have to say it live on air. I was saying this morning I'm not going to give him the satisfaction to say he was right, but he did call most of these tops and bottoms recently. And one thing he said that really did make sense to me is like, you got to break out of the Bitcoin echo chamber. And that really kind of connects to what Sophie just said. All markets are struggling right now. And of course, Bitcoin usually reacts before everything else. And I think this is what we're seeing right now. There is a lot of, macro uncertainties. There is a lot of fear in all markets right now. And we're starting to see that, yes, Bitcoin is reacting before that. Usually Bitcoin will react before, on the upside as well. So it is an interesting time to be in Bitcoin. And I think it kind of goes back to a simple kind of perspective. Like the only winning move right now, and I was saying this last night, it's like, if you're looking at the Bitcoin price, if you're trying to figure out what's going on, where we are in the cycle, where we are on not just the adoption curve, but, you know, where are we on Bitcoin winning and succeeding? I think it's a very simple idea. You have to watch what these institutions are doing. And I said a minute ago, hold on, choking on my saliva. I said a minute ago, I think there's a handful of people that really understand what's going on. If you look at all the Bitcoin kind of influencers, all the, as my boys at the Bugle say, all the pleb slop out there, every Bitcoin analyst has been wrong. We've all been coping. We've all been trying to understand where we are right now. But I really do think there's a handful of people, and they're not necessarily Bitcoiners, that know what's going on. Again, the Larry Finks of the world, the Donald Trumps of the world, David Sachs, probably Saylor, the people that are in these private conversations that we aren't privy to, I think they know what's coming down the pipeline. And to me, it just seems like the institutions are essentially preparing themselves and accumulating as much coin as possible, while retail sentiment is at the lowest it's ever been. Now,
but they need retail to also hop on the boat. Like, that's the thing. This doesn't work unless we are all on the boat. This isn't like fiat where they can control the, you know, the majority of the supply. Retail still has the majority of the supply in custody. So it's not going to be like last time where they start accumulating a bunch of fiat and they distribute it how they see fit and print more of it. This isn't the same thing. And that's what they are having a hard time understanding. That's why they're shilling out paper Bitcoin, right? And that's why Blackrock's clients have the easiest time just selling it, because they don't actually understand what it is. I think BlackRock understands what it is. I think the governments understand what it is, and they see the writing on the wall and they say, hey, I would rather be on this lifeboat than go down with the ship that is fiat. And in a way, that's bullish, but what worries me and what has me not bearish but worried is, you know, the loss of time, because and the expectation, man. Like, everybody expected this to be the bull run of bull runs. We thought that we were going to have, you know, 100K in 2021. That got cut short, and it pains me to feel like that is the same thing that's going to happen this cycle, even though the institutions have hopped on, even though the governments have hopped on, and they're the ones that have the most to lose. At least the government does. This administration, when it comes to the midterms, they are going to be so absolutely cooked if they don't turn this around. And I'm not talking about just Bitcoin. I'm talking about the economy as a whole. And so on one hand, you're absolutely right. Like, there is no way but up for this to go. But the problem is the to the right part. How long is this going to take? Because people are getting frantic, they're getting antsy. And if other parts of the economy are also failing, then that's good. Like, Bitcoin is going to be the first thing to go, just because people are dumb and they don't understand how it works, and they see it as an ETF. They see it as a traditional financial instrument, and they just, like, they're going to sell it because they just don't understand it. It's the first thing that they're going to go to because they want a house, because they want a car, because they need to live. And it's totally understandable. But also, like, are you really going to sell your Bitcoin to BlackRock? Are you really going to sell your Bitcoin to all of the institutions that screwed us all over in the first place? I really hope not, but I have very little hope in humanity. You know what? That's the quote. I'm bearish on humanity right now.
Love it. Sophie, we were having this comment, and I'm gonna give you guys the BlackRock stuff in a minute, but I love a general just vibe check. We were talking last night. It's like, what could kill Bitcoin? Obviously, I think the network of Bitcoin is unstoppable. And I know a lot of people are talking about like knots and core and stuff. But one of the things that I think most people don't see, and me and Sophie and Nico were talking about this last night, it's like one of the ways that they could actually kill Bitcoin is if they are able to maintain a form of price suppression. If number doesn't go up, this Bitcoin thing is over. And this is kind of the general sentiment that a lot of people are feeling right now is like, is it over? Is the cycles done? Is Bitcoin completely co-opted? And hence why I was on the show yesterday and saying, you know, control over Bitcoin, I think, is a good meme. Not necessarily who controls Bitcoin, but are you controlling your Bitcoin? Because if you're giving BlackRock your coin, then they can continue to, you know, do all kinds of shenanigans on it. But this is where we are. And I'm still bullish. I honestly think there's still time. Wait, hold on. Did I bring this up for today? Oh, no, I'm going to save that for tomorrow because we do have some interesting cultural stuff happening today. But 2026 could be a good year for us, guys. We could be seeing some tailwinds. Again, I know you guys in the chat are like, this is copium, you know, Opti's coping live on the show. Could be right. Anyways, let me pivot into the BlackRock news, because I've been telling you guys for a minute, ever since the ETF launch, if you are looking at what's going on in the Bitcoin space, it does seem like the institutions are in control. Again, retail never showed up. Retail is broke. People are fighting inflation. They have no savings. The only people that are seemingly accumulating Bitcoin right now are these institutions. And you could argue that maybe it's paper Bitcoin. Maybe they're not actually buying all this Bitcoin, but all the headlines are coming from institutions acquiring Bitcoin. And therefore, as I said yesterday, we have to be watching the ETF inflows and outflows, whether we like it or not. I think that is what's driving the price currently. So here we go to the BlackRock stuff. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF posts a record-setting outflows worth $523 million. Yes, you heard that right. The ETF IBIT had basically $500 million outflows from their clients. So maybe Larry Fink knows what he's holding, but the clients are sure as hell getting shaken out right now. So BlackRock's
at what price did they buy this?
Well, I'm gonna I don't have that data on hand, so that would be interesting.
If they're selling it at, you know, this lower price, and they basically took a loss, you know. But if BlackRock keeps that Bitcoin, then they're setting themselves up for possibly, you know, future gains. I don't know. I just don't understand why people are doing this. Okay, sorry. Continue, Opti.
Well, you know, as the meme goes, you buy high and sell low. So the ETF holders are learning what they're holding. Anyways, BlackRock's IBIT records its largest ever net outflows on Tuesday as institutions recalibrated their portfolio. According to Soso Value data, IBIT saw $523.15 million leave the ETF yesterday, surpassing the previous record of $463 million outflows set on November 14th. The ETF has now logged 5 straight days of net outflows totaling $1.43 billion. And of course, Eric Balchunas, who is the head senior analyst at Bloomberg, he goes, IBIT had worst day of outflows ever yesterday, about $500 million, ugly stretch, although year-to-date flows still at an astronomical plus $25 billion, 6 overall, all told $3.3 billion in total outflows past month from Bitcoin ETFs, which is 3.5% of assets under management. So if you flip this, the BlackRock ETF is still holding, 96.5% of all the Bitcoin that they have acquired. But as you can see, if we are watching the outflows and the inflows, and we can kind of correlate this with these dumps, if you see mass amounts of outflows from these ETFs, they are affecting the price. Now, the interesting tidbit that I have been kind of talking about with you guys about the ETFs is there is a delay. Now, we don't know what clear, like they say it's a +1 delay, but it hasn't seemed that clear. And here we got a response. IBIT reports a day late, right? And Eric Balchunas goes, yes, but it's not exact. But yeah, probably yesterday rally not in there. It's a rough stretch, though, no matter how you cut it. Although I like to provide all implication context, which shows how minimal it is versus the big picture. So even though we're seeing what seems to be a record number of outflows, $500 million, it's still minimal compared to how much assets they actually hold in, or how much Bitcoin they actually hold in these ETFs. Now, another interesting tidbit that came out yesterday is that Morgan Stanley has sold $104 million in these Bitcoin BlackRock ETFs tied to the spot Bitcoin ETF. So even though we are seeing there are some outflows in the ETFs, we are seeing a significant amount of buy pressure coming from wealthy clients from all of these banks, which really goes back to my main point here. Is like, if we are looking at the Bitcoin price, if we are looking at where we are on the cycle, if we're trying to understand what is going on right now, I think the best place to look is, what are these institutions doing? What are these really, I would argue, influential people doing right now? And the main takeaway that I'm seeing is they're playing the accumulation game. Now, everyone this year, I think they fall into a few camps. There's been a lot of Bitcoiners that bought a lot of Bitcoin treasuries. They were doing good at the beginning of the year. Now they're doing absolutely wrecked. They've lost like 96+% on some of these bags. I think it's like an average between 90 and like 90% losses on these Bitcoin treasury plays. I know some people have gone into the meme coins. They need the degenerate gambling dopium. And then everyone else is either holding or accumulating. So what is the winning play here? It is obviously accumulating Bitcoin and taking it into self-custody. I think that's it's literally the only move to win right now is just continuing to stack Bitcoin, even in the face of all of this craziness, even in the face of confusion and not understanding what's going on and everyone being completely wrong about the Bitcoin price. The winning move is stacking Bitcoin and taking it into cold storage. I think that's the only move to be doing right now, whether we know what's going on with the price or not. That's the only move, because that's what you're seeing the big players do. So at the same time that a lot of people are panicking, same time that people are talking about scaling out and the 4-year cycle is in, what are you seeing from billion-dollar, trillion-dollar institutions?
They're saying to buy.
They're saying to buy.
Morgan Stanley recently announced that they sold $100 million worth of Bitcoin to their ultra wealthy clients. So definitely, wealthy people are buying. They're placing their bets, and maybe they're placing them because they saw that an all-time high happened not too long ago, and that they're still, according to the cycles, we're supposed to have another all-time high. However, I like what this person on X is saying. The more we pay attention to the ETF flow, they will control more market activities. And I think that's the signal here. That's totally the signal here. I think like we have to stop making the conversation about the ETFs and stop looking at that as a market signal. And we have to do exactly what Opti just said. Accumulate more Bitcoin than you had yesterday and put it into self-custody. At some point, something's going to have to break. And these people are like, exactly just like Son of Sat said, these players are buying because their time horizon isn't 80 years. I'm dead. It's true though. It's true. And so yeah, I just
wait, he followed it up. My pleb ass time horizon is next year.
Same. Yeah, they can afford to wait all of this time and shake weak hands out, but we had expectations. We had different things on our minds, and now the economy is taking a turn. And I think that it's saying with buying these ETFs for better or for worse, they're saying that they want Bitcoin. When will they realize that these ETFs are actually worthless and they're giving all of their power to the institutions? I'm not sure. These institutions have a total spell on them. They're hypnotized and they think, oh, they're going to make me rich someday. Oh, my 20% returns. Like, that's totally good enough for them, but it's not good enough for us. And it's not good enough for us because it just enables the system that we are trying so hard to get out of. It's not so much about the price going down that bothers me. It's the loss of time. It's that we're wasting time enabling these people who are ruining us, who are ruining the country, not just financially, but culturally. We are literal serfs. People my age cannot afford a house because of the system that they have built. And I'm just sick of it. I really thought that price go up would make regular people understand why they needed Bitcoin. Unfortunately, we're going to have to probably go through some more pain before that happens. But I it's fine because we have Bitcoin. It's in self-custody. We're just going to probably have to wait a little bit longer.
Well, Sophie, price did not go up enough for normie retailers to come into Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, no, like obviously 126, because that was like the bear case. No? Or like,
yeah, I mean, I think this is worse than the bear case.
bro.
we were expecting a positive year, not a negative/flat year. So
No, this is literally the bear case. 90K was the bear case. 150K was the
no.
base
I don't even think.
case.
I don't even think the bear case was negative. Like the bear case was at least a little positive.
Yeah, well, right now we're sitting at 89K, so like you have a point there. But yeah, everything is wrecked. And I think it's ever since these institutions came in. I think, on one side, great, like the normies are adopting, but what are they adopting? They're adopting trash. They're literally adopting trash on the street. And then they're giving it to these institutions and they're saying, thank you. And they're putting Bitcoin in their pockets and their self-custody. So congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really be careful what you wish for. Bitcoiners have been asking for the institutions for years. Now they're here, and we literally have as that Fox News clip said in the video, a wasted year in Bitcoin. Literally like the worst quote unquote parabolic year ever. It's completely flat. Actually, it's still negative. So, but I really do think that this is what's going on. Yeah, agreed. To me, this is my working case right here. I think this is exactly what's going on in the comment. Shouts out to Cruising Arizona. Yeah, whatever.
Cruising Arizona.
All right. And he goes, they're just trying to scare you all. That's all they're trying to do. Retail and liquidation shakeout. Then it's coming. I'm fully on board on this. After all the conversations I had, the fact that no one knows what's going on, to me, this what makes the most sense. Is this year is one of those years where it is a complete shakeout. We're seeing a transition from essentially the old models, like all of the predictive kind of indicators that we had for Bitcoin being completely broken. All our models are broken. No one has any idea what's going on. I'm sure there's a few people that do, but to me, this is exactly what's going on. This is the year where your conviction is tested. This is where you realize that all of the price action is literally just trying to shake you out. Because again, my basic premise is if you had to wait 16 years to get into Bitcoin, and then finally, basically on the year when you can actually go into Bitcoin, how do you acquire a big chunk of Bitcoin? You have to get it out of the hands of the hodlers. And the only way to really do that is you shake them out of their positions. Well, there's actually two ways, and we've seen one work pretty good. The Wall Street products incentivize you via your own greed to give up your Bitcoin keys, or second, just pure demoralization and capitulation and essentially have you sell out. So now's the time to, again, just follow what they're doing. And that is accumulating more Bitcoin, making sure, I mean, they're not taking it into self-custody, but this is how we win. Accumulate more Bitcoin, take it into self-custody. Doesn't matter about the price. Yes, we like to watch the price because it's fun. It does tell us a lot about maybe the general sentiment of what's going on, but that is what's happening. You are getting demoralized right now. The shakeout is happening. Liquidity has been dry across the board. And I think we're all being tested right now. It's been a long year of I can't even call it a stable coin anymore because we're down. At least a stable coin, holds value and it's supposedly stable. As of now, we're losing value. We've lost value this year. Anyways.
Which is, it's the first time that this has ever happened in the history of Bitcoin. All your models are broken now for real, because we had a little bit of hope for November and December, but now even December, they're saying, oh, you know what? That thing that we said about printing more money, we might be taking it back. JK. And again, like people are saying, oh, you hate your own subscribers. You guys are being bearish, whatever. We're not being bearish. I'm just mad at the people who don't get it yet. I'm frustrated. I'm losing my patience with people who are just not understanding. It's not clocking for these people that they shouldn't be buying Bitcoin through Blackrock or through Fidelity. They should be buying Bitcoin, either mining it, peer-to-peer, or, you know, fine, like if you want to go on Coinbase, or actually you should go on bitcoinwell.com, where it goes straight into self-custody. That would be the best way to buy Bitcoin, actually. But they just don't get it, and that's what I'm frustrated with. I'm frustrated with people. I want people to get it already without suffering as much. I want minimal suffering.
You cannot avoid the suffering.
I know.
The suffering is how you earn your stripes.
I do know that. I say that a lot on this show. Like, things are going to get really bad before we actually see people understand the ramifications of Bitcoin and why fiat is just not working anymore. However, a girl can hope, right?
No. There's no hope left, Sophie. No. I personally, I don't think you should be selling out right now. Do not sell the bottom right now. I also don't think we are going into, an 80% bear market. But again, at this point, no one has any clue. So on that note, I will tell you guys to smash the like button, comment on the show, let us know what you think about where we are going. Is there any hope left for December? And of course, subscribe. If you like Sophie over here, she's dropping content. We got Oceans, we got Dante, we got Rustin. Of course, we drop the most content, period, on any YouTube channel. And before I go out, I do want to plug our sponsor, Bitcoin Well. If you need to buy Bitcoin, if you're looking at these sweet, juicy discounts that we're seeing right now, make sure you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. Set up your smash buys on Bitcoin. And the reason we love them is because when you buy Bitcoin on their exchange, it goes straight to your cold storage. They have never lost Bitcoin. They will never lose Bitcoin because they never hold your Bitcoin. Once the dollars go through, it goes straight into your personal Bitcoin wallet. That does mean you need to have a Bitcoin wallet when you sign up. And then, of course, if you are on the sidelines and you're trying to take advantage of this discount, make sure you get in touch with the Bitcoin Well Infinite team, and you can buy $50,000 or more at one time, and they will give you the white glove service so that you can make sure you hold on to these generational sats. Okay, let's keep it moving.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Alrighty then, guys. The current Bitcoin price is, wait, hold on. Do I have let me see if I have the right, I need some sound effects for this one.
What is
Let me see. I don't know
it
if
a violin?
No, do I not have it in this one? Damn. I don't have it in here. Okay, sorry guys. Sorry for the delay. I don't have it in here. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is $89,600, which is a negative 29% decline from all-time high. The current market cap is $1.79 trillion. Remember when we were at like 2.25 and that was like so fun, and here we can't hold on to $2 trillion market cap. Anyways,
remember when Bitcoin didn't feel like a huge Black Friday sale all the time? Those were good times.
Yeah, that was fun. Okay, and the current block height is 924,321. All right, guys. So as we are all in the face of seeing all of this craziness, all of the institutions out there, all the big banks are all making, Bitcoin signals. We can go lower. Let's trust. Yeah. I thought this was kind of interesting. This one's from CITI Bank. Again, what do they really know? Maybe the institutions do have a better grasp of what's going on in the space right now since everyone else is lost. But this is their analysis that came out yesterday. I thought it was pretty interesting.
In your note, Dirk, correct me if I have this wrong, we're trying to find explanations for what's going on with Bitcoin. Were you pinning that on tightening liquidity?
That is one of the explanations. There are a couple of things going on in Bitcoin that are interesting. First, there was a flash crash in early October. And that, for Bitcoin itself, it was a 14% move down over 2 days. Maybe not that drastic, but some of the altcoins really got sold much, much harder. And after this flash crash, we saw that the flows into the Bitcoin ETFs and so forth really changed. So the flows really never recovered, and so retail was apparently somewhat shell-shocked by that day, and we saw outflows. The other thing that happened is that I think a lot of the institutional investors trade Bitcoin with a bit of a trend-following mindset, and so we broke some of the moving averages that they tend to look at, and that is also reducing the source of demand. But the third point is what you were mentioning, and that is that the liquidity, which we measure by bank reserves on the Fed balance sheet, dropped by a bit more than 500 billion. And that happened because the Treasury increased the Treasury general account at the Fed by selling a lot of T-bills. And there were two reasons for that. One is why this TGA account was so high. One is that that during the government shutdown, the Treasury didn't spend as much, so that account rose mechanically on the back of that. But secondly, they did sell more T-bills than is typical, and so we are thinking going forward, the liquidity squeeze, so that explanation for the Bitcoin weakness should actually get much better, because we expect TGA to at the very least flatten out and probably decline, meaning bank reserves and liquidity should improve between now and the end, partly because of the reopening and partly because the Treasury sold so many T-bills already.
Interesting take. I mean, look, who knows if this guy's right? Everyone's like, this guy's a clown.
I would like to know who your connect at the Fed is.
Who's the plug?
Who's your inside source? Because, yeah, that's the other thing. I'm tired of everyone just like saying that they know what's going to happen. Like, all of this speculation is actually just absolute nonsense, because everything we thought was going to happen, the total opposite happened. So should we just like play the opposite day game at this point?
Inverse, the ultimate inverse Kramer.
I'm dead.
So he said liquidity scenario is going to improve, so it should pump. I guess at this point we all know it's going to just continue to dump, I guess. But he does have a point. And Sophie's actually going to do a video on this one, in particular to what's going on in Japan. But an interesting kind of metric that we're seeing around the world is that the money printer is starting to turn on, whether that's in Japan. It looks like India's about to do it. Looks like the UK is about to do it. Looks like the US QT is about to end in about 2 weeks. It seems like the money printers are about to turn on. So if that is the case and we do see a boom in liquidity globally around the world, I mean, usually that means that Bitcoin's going to do good. Though we did see a general break from the global M2 supply and Bitcoin. I know everyone was, touting that chart for months that this was going to make Bitcoin pump. It's completely broken at this point. It's completely uncorrelated at this point. But I have been seeing people in the chat essentially say that once the government shutdown is over, that's when things should start pumping. I never found too much weight in that take, but here we are. Everyone is looking at something very similar. We have been in a very tight liquidity cycle, and it seems like that is easing, pun intended. It looks like quantitative easing is back on the table. Obviously, they're going to name it something differently. They're not going to go out there and say, quantitative easing squared, because market knows what that means. So they're going to try to cloak that conversation in something else. But it all goes back to a very simple idea. They cannot stop this train. The big print is coming. They have to inject liquidity into the system. And I mean, Sophie said it a minute ago, you know, when you look at the Trump administration and what's going on, like they have to figure out the economy. And this is going around globally. All the kind of, I don't want to say like revolts, but all the people upset around the world right now, are there, people are usually kind of connecting it to a couple of ideas. One, the main one that we would probably kind of agree with is that the economy is so bad for everyone. Even though they're coming out here, even though Scott Bessent comes out every other week and he's like, the economy is great, guys. Look at the numbers. You know, just by your experience. Yeah. So you know, by just your experience that it's not doing that good. And so they have to figure out the economy or else not only is everyone going to get poorer, but the people in power are going to have a big headache on their hands.
We already saw this happen earlier this month in New York. That's all I'm going to say. Nothing beats the word free. And actually it gets stronger and stronger every time the economy gets weaker and weaker. So I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to have to do something. Also, I feel like my mic is really, really low. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys are hearing me.
You seem quiet to me too.
At good volume levels.
I'll turn you up.
8. Oh, this much better.
All right. We'll figure it out. But I was saying that before. Anyways. I'm gonna go into the news now. Because there was something that we did miss coming out of El Salvador. Which is, I think, a greater trend we're seeing. One, the nation state level adoption going on, but two, we got to remember the saga that El Salvador has been in with the IMF recently and a lot of the backlash they've been getting. So they did a very interesting move. I believe it was Monday. So we're gonna speculate a little bit on this, and one more commercial break and we'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, guys, if you want to fight these monetary demons, scan the QR code below for 20% off your BitKey or use promo code SIMPLY. You want to take your Bitcoin into self-custody and give that gift to your whole family this holiday season by, again, scanning the QR code or using promo code SIMPLY.
Love it.
You know what? It works.
Love it. Okay. As I was saying, so obviously for years now, El Salvador has been one of the headline stories in Bitcoin. They were a tiny country. They elected a president. He went full Bitcoin. And you could arguably say that because he went full Bitcoin, he was able to turn his country around. But you can definitively say that because he adopted Bitcoin, he added a lot of scrutiny and, of course, a lot of attention to his country. Now, earlier this year, towards the end of, or no, it was earlier this year. Sorry, guys. My time is just, it's been so warped by no action in Bitcoin all year long. Earlier this year, we did have a news story coming out where El Salvador made a deal with the IMF for a loan. And part of that deal was that they could not add more Bitcoin to it. Though at the very same time, it did seem like they were adding, a couple of coins a day. They were doing the promo, hey, we're still buying Bitcoin, even though essentially the deal told them that they couldn't buy Bitcoin. The IMF came out and said they're actually not buying Bitcoin. There was a whole kind of, I don't know, argument, drama on Twitter about were they actually buying more Bitcoin, or was the IMF rules and what they were saying, the spokesperson, really what was going on, that they're not buying any more Bitcoin. A lot of Bitcoiners were saying they were actually just transferring some Bitcoin from other wallets into their main reserve. Well, we saw this, which is very interesting. And it does, one, lead to the greater idea that this year, even though the price has been pretty stagnant, not only on institutions getting into Bitcoin, but the nation states are also kind of buying and positioning themselves to get into Bitcoin, especially after Trump came out and said the U.S. is going to be the Bitcoin superpower of the world. We've seen a lot of countries come out and say either they're mining Bitcoin, they're trying to do strategic Bitcoin reserves. But I'm going to start here with El Salvador. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but this is very interesting. And here we have Nayib Bukele just tweeting, HOA. And he is doing a screenshot of the Bitcoin office, El Salvador Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. Now, I don't think this would be news if it was just adding a couple more coins. I think the reason that I want to talk about this, and I think this is news, is they added $100 million worth of Bitcoin, or rather, more clearly, 1,900 or 1,098.19 Bitcoin in one chunk. And if you look at this Bitcoin balance is crazy. And we haven't seen any clarification on this, whether this means that they just bought 100 mil of Bitcoin in direct defiance of the IMF kind of loan obligations. But my view on this is that seems to be exactly what they did. If it, like, before we saw them essentially transfer, a couple coins here or there. I think the most we saw throughout the year was maybe like 10 coins at a time. And many people were saying that that was because they were transferring from other wallets. Here we are. They add 1,000 plus coins at one single time, $100 million of Bitcoin at one single time. Now, we haven't seen much clarification on what's going on with the IMF loan. There was a conversation that, we're finalizing this and the money's coming through. But now, I don't know. This does seem like a direct defiance from Nayib Bukele to the IMF. I could be speculating. I could be, adding to the rumor mill. But when I saw this, I'm like, are they just smash bought $100 million in direct defiance to this IMF loan? Because we haven't seen this amount. Even if you believe that they are just transferring coins from one wallet to their main wallet, it's hard to see how they could just have, 1,000 plus coins just chilling, not doing anything, and not on their official balance sheet. Remember, this country has a GDP of $32 billion. Like $100 million is a significant amount of their total GDP. So that's the first topic here. I'll get your views on this, Self, real quick. What do you think is going on?
I think this is like the Sydney Sweeney interview where she's like doing her death stare and she's like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it, IMF? Yeah, you told us to stop buying Bitcoin. We bought more.
A shit ton more. Now, it was interesting because Matt Gaetz was tweeting about this and he's like, are you paying attention to what is happening in El Salvador yet? He should have really been Pam Bondi's job for real, though.
Bro. Don't even get me started. Don't even. Yeah.
That should have been the one. Okay. Anyways, so look, tell me in the chat what you think is going on here. But kind of updating this, you know, the nation state Bitcoin rush is on. Of course, El Salvador just bought 100 million or 1,098 coins. Also rumors this week that, or actually not rumors, sorry. Also, Abu Dhabi funds now holds 900 million plus in Bitcoin. They are holding Bitcoin ETFs. I think they 3x their Bitcoin ETF buys that just came out. Of course, Luxembourg allocated 7 million to a BTC ETF. It wasn't that much, but you know, they're starting to play the game. And of course, Czech Republic also launched their $1 million government test portfolio, which is by any other name, a strategic Bitcoin reserve here. So things are picking up, and it really kind of goes into the greater conversation of what is the U.S. doing?
And also maybe our mistake is that we are pricing Bitcoin in fiat. Maybe that's like
what else do we price it in?
Well, that's
jars of mayo.
No, we have to. I mean, for now, we have to price it in Bitcoin, but I mean, sorry, in dollars. But maybe that is kind of like the mistake. Just how I said, we have to take our framing away from, you know, the value of these ETFs and stop correlating it to the value of Bitcoin. Maybe what's going to have to happen is that we stop correlating the value of the dollar to the value of Bitcoin. Because if all of these institutions are buying, if governments are buying, if this is what's happening, then maybe that's the signal that we all keep missing. We keep valuing it in dollars, but the dollar is actually just losing value. So what are we doing?
I love this conversation, but I always go back to then what do you value things in? No one can ever answer that one, but my boys in the chat are starting to catch on. When Mayo chart? When can we see a chart of Bitcoin priced in jars of mayo? Because no one likes the dollar.
I don't know. Maybe you price it in, you know, GDP, or you price it in the like.
Well, I do like Petrosat. When we do, you know, Bitcoin priced in oil, that's when we really win.
Like, what's the next most valuable thing? Food? I don't know. Water?
But then it's like then we just admit we're bartering. That's why I like the dollar. Look, dollar price is the best form of value.
It's so confusing.
Or besting the price for value.
Well, yeah, but it feels confusing, and it feels like a very meta kind of concept. But what if we really just have to like take the dollar out of like the frame?
We price in gold.
We could price it in gold. We could go back to that and then just like make Bitcoin the new dollar here, even though, you know, obviously like that's going to break every normie's brain. It's breaking my brain right now. But I think that's the mistake that we're making, because it just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. We're going to come back to this cycle and this feedback loop that is going on in my mind. How is it possible that governments and the richest institutions in the world and all of these people are buying Bitcoin? It just feels like they are hedging value into that lifeboat. It feels like they no longer believe in the dollar. And I think that what's happening in Japan is indicative of that. It's a huge billboard saying, hey, you are now entering the danger zone where fiat no longer exists because it's actually worthless. It's happened to other countries before. I'm Venezuelan. I've seen this movie play out before. And I just, there has to be something that we're not seeing, gang. I'm just like.
Ron P says, price in restoration hardware couches, Sophie.
Yes. Yes, you get
No,
me.
this comment here, and I'm not reading this just because you gave us money, but I appreciate it, Matthew. 10 Canadian dollars. He goes, I've been watching Bitcoin price, comparing it against a basket of commodities, oil, beef, rice, etc. I usually, like, if I try to disconnect it from dollars, it's usually priced in gold that I look at. But I swear that once we get, someone said Bitcoin priced in energy. And I
Yes.
like that, but that's kind of like a vague term. So that's why I usually go Bitcoin priced in oil.
Or Bitcoin priced in time.
How do you
value your time right now? We
Yeah, but
value
that's
our time in
subjective.
dollars.
How do we have a universal time value for everyone? That's 24 hours in a day. Value your coin in 24 hours in a day.
And what you do with those 24 hours. Beyonce's 24 hours aren't the same as my 24 hours.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, though. It's subjective.
But everything is subjective. All value is subjective.
Oh, now, okay. Subjective value of theory. Here we go. Such a Bitcoiner. Anyways, I'm going to wrap today's show up in the culture with, there is some interesting stuff that's going to happen a little later on today that a lot of people are watching, because I think it's going to give us some signals about where the general economy is. So we'll be right back and we'll talk about it.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
All right, guys, we are back. So today we are going to see the Fed minutes in about 20 minutes. And a lot of people are saying right now, actually, let me pull up this article here. I didn't actually save it for you guys because I didn't really think I was going to bring it up. But there was a CNN article this morning. And of course, CNN, I know. I already know what you're saying. But it was talking about the current Bitcoin price action and what they think is going on. And they're not the only person to say this, but it's just, it's an official narrative here, or sorry, an official publication here. And it goes by why crypto is melting down and stocks keep falling. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there is one little segment that I want to bring up because it's going to kind of touch in on the greater idea going on. Wait, was it this one? Yeah, okay, here we go. So we have Bitcoin has struggled as a result of selling pressure from long-term holders taking profits, but also uncertainty around Fed policy, the liquidity environment, and other macro conditions, which is something we've been talking about for a while. This is something I've been saying for a long time. So what is happening later today? One, of course, Fed minutes in about 20 minutes. And then two, the NVIDIA reporting call is happening later today. And the reason that most people are watching this, one, of course, the Fed is the general uncertainty of what's going on. What's the Fed going to do? Are they going to cut rates? What's the CPI numbers? What the hell is going on right now? That's essentially what everyone is waiting on. Optis from the Metro. No. And the NVIDIA call earnings. And the reason people are pointing to these two things, one, of course, the Fed, they're the ones out here that make the call. And these are the signals that people essentially trade off of. And then the NVIDIA earnings call is the whole like AI bubble that's going on right now. Oh, I call it kind of an AI bubble. It could go way higher. I'm not the biggest AI guy out there. I understand that the stocks are doing really well, but people are watching these two things as a general view of what's going to happen in the greater economy. Again, if you're looking at the S&P 500, all of the gains, and I forget the exact number, but like all the gains on the S&P 500 come from about 5 to 7 stocks. And everyone else is just, going along for the ride. It's basically being driven by tech and AI stocks. That's what's driving the S&P 500. Put another way, there's about 5 stocks right now, 5 companies that are literally driving the entire U.S. economy right now. And so depending on what's going on with these NVIDIA earnings call, a lot of people are going to have a general understanding of what's going on in the economy. Now, we didn't cover it on the show, but this last week, we saw, a very interesting move. Michael Burry, of course, infamous for the Big Short movie, he put on a $1 billion short on NVIDIA and Palantir. Well, a couple of days later, we saw Peter Thiel fully divest from NVIDIA, again, in the AI stock bubble. And now this is why everyone is waiting on pins and needles for the Fed minutes that's about to happen. And, of course, what happened with NVIDIA's earning calls. Now, one of my friends, I think he did a pretty good analysis of what's going on here. Of course, shouts out to CJ Constantinos. And he goes, pretty good chance that today's release of Fed minutes will reveal recognition of economic weakness. CME Fed futures may flip-flop again as a December rate cut chance increases. Personally, I think TradFi is missing the market signal by focusing too much on the U.S. Treasury yield curve. If all the money that went into gold and silver instead went out into the U.S. Treasury yield curve, then there would be a steep yield curve inversion. That's the signal TradFi is watching in order to, quote, react to economic weakness and really lower rates. TradFi is ignoring the fact that the U.S. dollar was devalued by 50% against gold in the last year. Many bond vigilantes are no longer buying bonds to short/hedge stocks. Instead, they are buying gold. This lack of demand on U.S. Treasuries is keeping yield curve relatively flat. In fact, it's steepening. QE coming. It's only a matter of time. Once again, the Fed could be blindsided and have to react to a crisis they created instead of proactively loosening with liquidity. We're about to leave the bear market macro and enter into the bull market macro. Bitcoin was able to put in a new all-time high in the tightest conditions it's ever been through. Some say it's underperforming, but with U.S. Treasury yield at 4% plus, I'd say Bitcoin has overperformed. Well, at this point, we literally haven't performed, but, I see what you're saying, CJ. And when monetary conditions are soon loosened with lower rates and liquidity injections, Bitcoin will go back to being the best performing asset in the world. Prepare accordingly. So while most people are looking at the Fed minutes later today and an NVIDIA call earnings, it's basically all saying the same thing. Remember what Trump's been saying about Jerome Powell. He's been calling him too late Powell for weeks now. I think literally this morning, was it this morning or last night? This morning, he came out and basically just trolled Jay Powell more. He said, hey, being the Fed governor is the easiest job in the world. All you got to do is play golf for 28 and 29 minutes and then talk for an hour. He's just roasting Jay Powell right now. So he's about to go out in about 15 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more general volatility in the markets. And then later today, we will be seeing the NVIDIA call earnings, which I think, as CJ said at the very top of this, he said, will reveal the recognition of economic weakness. So if you see the price around markets later today become extremely volatile, then you know where the root cause of all of this is of course Fed minutes in about 15 minutes, and then later on today the Nvidia call earnings, or maybe I don't know exactly the time, but I'm sure later today is when we will all know exactly what's going on. So hey, look, the forest from the trees is we will finally see some things happen. I think there will be, a general recognition of what's going on. And again, while we don't care about these signals, the people that are deploying capital do care about these signals. And if they're waiting on the sidelines, trying to find the right position to allocate their capital, then we could be seeing some interesting stuff play out later today. So that's what I would be watching later on tonight, or rather basically right when the show is over. And then later, I'm sure tomorrow, well, maybe we like maybe the Bitcoin price is going to go down to British HODL's 87K price point. Maybe not. Maybe not. So are we going down further? I don't know, bro. I think that's the general conclusion. Probably going down. Hold on, pull on the Bitcoin minute chart when he goes on, and we can all be like, no. I'm gonna wrap up a little early today, guys. So, no minute chart, guys. No minute chart for you guys. But that's what I would be watching. That's what I would be watching later on today. Yeah, this one. All right, last comment. I'm kind of on this boat right here. So we have JB Supra. He goes, the insiders in the government know the numbers are bad, so we dumping into Fed news, then market will correct to the upside. That is also my general take. I mean, I don't know if you guys heard one last note, but it was also said that we aren't going to get any Fed data because of the government shutdown. We're not going to get any of the numbers for October. So I think this is probably the clearest take here. They know the numbers are bad. It's going to dump, and then it'll probably correct to the upside. So that would be kind of my take. That would be my view on what's going on here. Foxy, just remember our tiers sustain us. Yes, 100%. All right, guys. Are they going to stop printing money? No, they are not. They're not. Actually, the money printer is probably turning on, guys. So position yourself now. Yeah. This is what happened. October numbers were lost to the abyss. At least that's the narrative they're saying. Anyways, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. Buckle up, stack some sats, probably go out, touch some grass, eat some good food, call your loved ones, all that good stuff. We will be here tomorrow, even if we're crying on the show. TM hustling, here we go again. Yo, it's literally, guys, all right, last thing. It's literally like the GTA meme, like, oh shit, here we go again. That's where we are, guys. That is where we are. All right, peace out. It's your boy Opti. I will see you guys tomorrow for another one. We will recap all of the carnage, if there is carnage, tomorrow. On that note, have a good one. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.